Time me, gentlemen, time me. It is a freezing winter morning in 1842. We are in a public operating theater in London. There is a crowd of nearly 200 people all around. Everyone is waiting to see the famous surgeon Robert Liston show off his knife skills. Liston walks into the theater wearing that infamous apron, which is so caked with other patients' blood that it has basically turned to stone. He is holding a shiny, sharp knife and a saw. A patient is lying right there in front of him. He is shaking with absolute terror. There are no shots, no medicine to put him to sleep. His leg has to be cut off while he is wide awake. Liston bites down on his knife to hold it in his teeth. Time me. Exactly 25 seconds. Everything is over before the clock even ticks 25 times. Yeah, you heard that right. In just 25 seconds, an entire leg was separated from the body. The patient did not even get a chance to scream in pain. This was the reality of surgery before anesthesia was invented. Back then, people were afraid of death, but they were way more scared of having an operation. Do you know what the main skill for a surgeon was at that time? It was not about being precise with your hands. It was really about how fast you could cut. You had to finish the job before the patient passed out from the agony. Otherwise, there was a 100% chance the patient would die from shock. When I first read about this history, it gave me goosebumps. Just picture this. 4 guys are holding you down as hard as they can.
And another person is cutting into your body with a knife. You see everything and you feel everything. Let's look at a story from 1811. It is about the famous writer Frances Burney. She had breast cancer. The doctors back then said surgery was the only way. Anesthesia was still about 50 years away. Frances wrote a letter to her sister describing that pain. She wrote, "When that terrible steel went into my breast, the arteries and veins were cut. I started screaming." They say that scream did not stop during the whole operation. She wrote that the sound of that agony still rings in her ears. Can you even think about that kind of mental trauma? She passed out twice in the middle of the surgery, but the work did not stop. Doctors believed back then that if air got inside the body, it would burn like crazy. They said it felt exactly like the fires of hell. Honestly, I am not sure if words can even explain how lucky we are today. Did this progress in medical science come easily? No, not at all. Actually, the pace of progress was surprisingly slow. For thousands of years, people tried different things to stop the pain. The Sumerians used opium. The Chinese used various herbal cocktails. There is even talk about using the soporific sponge or the sleep sponge. They said if you held it near the nose, the patient would drift into a deep sleep. But the problem was there was no guarantee they would ever wake up. If the dose was too high, the patient would go straight from the operating table to the grave. And if the dose was too low, they would wake up right in the middle of the surgery.
So if you think this was easy, no, it was not easy, just different. Robert Liston was the fastest. Well, no, calling him fast is wrong. He was like some kind of magician. But behind this unbelievable speed, there was a gruesome darkness hidden away. Once, he was cutting a leg so fast that he accidentally cut off his assistant's fingers too. It sounds ridiculous, but it is true. 3 people died because of that one operation. The patient died from an infection.
The assistant also died from an infection in his cut fingers, and a spectator watching nearby died from a heart attack out of pure fear. Just think about it. One operation where the doctor sent 3 people to the underworld at once. In medical history, this is called a 300% mortality rate. Just picture the situation. One doctor finished off 3 people in a single surgery. Back in the day, operating theaters looked like stages for a play. Regular people would buy tickets just to come and see the gore and the blood. They treated it like entertainment. It was like how we watch videos on our phones while stuck in traffic, except they enjoyed watching people suffer. Surgeons did not clean their aprons back then. The more blood there was, the more experienced the surgeon was thought to be. There was no concept of infections or germ theory back then. Feeling pain was actually seen as a good sign. Doctors thought the more the patient screamed, the more it meant they were alive. Some doctors even believed that pain was a healing power. They thought if someone did not feel pain during surgery, their wound would not heal. Religious beliefs were also a big hurdle. Many people felt that human suffering was God's will. Stopping the pain meant interfering with God's work. Can you believe the level of brainwashing back then? They would get people drunk on alcohol. But if they got too drunk, the bleeding would get even worse. So surgery was basically nothing but hellish torture. October 16, 1846. This day changed everything. At Massachusetts General Hospital, Dr. William Morton showed the first successful use of ether. When he pulled the patient's tooth, the patient did not feel any pain at all. Surgeon John Collins Warren shouted from the audience, "Gentlemen, this is no humbug." That means this isn't a scam. News of ether spread everywhere like wildfire. When the news reached London, Robert Liston cut his first leg using ether. When the patient opened his eyes after the surgery, he asked, "When are you going to start?" Liston was shocked, looked at his students, and said, "This Yankee Dodge changed all the math." Anesthesia wasn't just about pain relief. It gave surgeons time. Now there is no need to cut fast anymore. Now surgeons can do precise work carefully. This is exactly why heart transplants or brain surgeries are possible today. Before, no one could even think about doing surgery inside the brain or the stomach, because it is impossible to work inside a stomach in 25 seconds. It is amazing when you think about how incredibly slow medical progress actually was. The modern era only started when medical science finally found its footing. It makes you shiver to think how helpless human life was just 200 years ago. Before anesthesia was discovered, thousands of people died slowly just out of fear of the pain. The blood-stained floors and the screams of the operating theater are only in the history books today. But those agonies remind us how safe we really are today. This is the biggest proof that science does not just give us data, it saves human lives. The next time you go to a hospital, think about those 25 seconds. Think about Robert Liston and Francis Burney. Just try to think about how deep the limits of human endurance really were.